Sometimes a single event can shake an entire community. When local rapper Ronnie Smith, best known as Lil Ronnie, and his 5-year-old daughter lost their lives in a brutal shooting at a Forest Hill car wash, it stunned Fort Worth and beyond. In an instant, a promising career was cut short and an innocent child's future was stolen. Rumors, feuds, and street politics swirled around Lil Rny's name, but few could believe things would escalate so violently. As the community mourned, questions arose. Was he targeted? Did ongoing tensions push this tragedy into motion? And most importantly, could justice arrive before any more lives were taken? Rassing. Ronnie Smith earned a reputation as an ambitious talent in the local rap scene, blending raw street stories with a unique flair for performance. He wasn't just known for his music, he was also a fearless gambler who'd challenge anyone, from dice games to dominoes. This fearless streak gave him a certain mystique. Behind the brash persona, though, was a devoted father. Family members described him as someone who prioritized his kids above everything else, taking real pride in being there for them. Yet as much as he cherished fatherhood, he never entirely distanced himself from the streets. In interviews, Lil Rny mentioned that he sometimes thought about leaving Fort Worth for good, but ties at home kept him firmly in place. That choice, whether from loyalty or necessity, might have contributed to the dangerous environment swirling around him. In Texas hip-hop circles, rivalries and feuds often run deep, fueled by pride and hometown loyalty. Lil Rny's rising popularity placed him in the spotlight, which can quickly attract both fans and hidden enemies. Rumors surfaced, suggesting he was embroiled in local conflicts. Some say he'd traded heated words with other rappers. Others believed he was quietly involved in more serious street issues. Social media posts also fanned the flames. Alleged threats flew back and forth on live streams and in rap lyrics. This back and forth sometimes blurred the line between entertainment hype and real-life danger. Lil Ronnie's own lyrics hinted at a man unafraid of confrontation, leading many to speculate that he was a target in brewing disputes. To outsiders, it all seemed like typical rapper bravado, but to those familiar with Fort Worth's undercurrents, it felt more ominous, as though old rules of engagement were fading fast. For Lil Rny and his little girl, it started as an ordinary morning. They pulled into Slappy Express Car Wash to clean a red Dodge Challenger that had turned heads around town. His daughter had recently celebrated her birthday, and the mood was presumably light. Then, in a burst of violence, gunshots shattered that everyday routine. Witnesses reported 2 individuals jumping out of a white vehicle, opening fire without warning. The sound of rapid gunfire sent bystanders scrambling for cover, some hearing as many as 20 shots. When law enforcement arrived, they found both Lil Rny and his 5-year-old daughter fatally wounded. The horror of a child lost to stray bullets, or perhaps directly targeted, sparked immediate outrage. As emergency responders taped off the area, family members arrived in tears, disbelief etched on their faces. The car doors were still open, bearing silent witness to lives lost far too soon. News of the tragedy spread quickly, igniting a storm of grief and anger. People struggled to make sense of why anyone would go after a father with his child in tow. Longtime residents said this brazen act defied an unspoken code that, at the very least, spared the innocent. While details trickled in, heartbreak took over the community. The instant it was confirmed a 5-year-old girl had also been killed, something shifted in Fort Worth. Memorials sprang up around the car wash, with mourners placing flowers, balloons, and messages filled with sorrow and rage. Community leaders, activists, and even people who'd never heard Lil Ronnie's music called for answers. This collective grief brought into focus a cycle of violence that felt unstoppable, but many insisted that this time would be different. Nobody wanted to see a child's death go unpunished. It also became clear that loyalty to any street code was overshadowed by moral outrage. Tips began to pour in, and investigators followed leads at a pace few had seen before. The echo of a child's loss seemed to inspire more cooperation, with bystanders stepping forward to share what they knew. Vigilant social media users scoured every post and rumor, hoping to piece together how tragedy struck so mercilessly that day. Less than a day after the shooting, officials indicated they had identified suspects linked to the crime. Silence from law enforcement quickly turned into a promise of swift justice, though exact details were tightly guarded. Media outlets reported that the shooters had been spotted fleeing in a white vehicle, but everything else remained unconfirmed. Still, the rumor mill churned furiously. Some pointed fingers at known rivals who had clashed with Lil Rny in the past. Others argued it was tied to gambling debts, or even an unrelated feud that spiraled out of control. The one thread uniting these theories was the sheer disbelief over a young child's life ending in such a violent manner. Many believed the investigators were moving so fast precisely because she was among the victims. Meanwhile, local rappers who had been publicly feuding with Lil Rny either went silent or posted cryptic condolences. Fans dissected past live streams, recalling brash statements like, "You can't go to that car wash," and turning them into accusations. In an environment already charged with tension, some worried that this act would spark a new wave of retaliation. The promise of revenge lingered in the air, encouraged by anguished friends and family. But others begged for peace, warning that more gunfire would only feed the cycle of grief. Parents who had lost their own children to street violence joined forces, pleading for an end to the bloodshed. Their pleas resonated across neighborhoods used to hearing bad news. Even so, the fear of what might happen next was impossible to ignore. In the aftermath, people struggled to reconcile different sides of Lil Rny: the talented performer, the charismatic gambler, the devoted father, and the rumored instigator of street conflicts. Family members insisted he never bothered anyone, that he poured his energy into providing for his two kids. Online critics countered that he was deeply enmeshed in confrontations that could only end badly. What can't be denied is that his story highlights how quickly any feud can turn irreversible. Hip-hop has always had a competitive edge, but when real tensions blend with public bravado, lines get crossed. Lil Rny's death, coupled with his daughters, served as a harsh reminder that bullets don't discriminate. Those who once cheered on escalating rivalries now paused, wondering whether petty beefs were worth the cost. In a city that has already mourned far too many, the loss of Lil Rny and his 5-year-old daughter felt like a boiling point. This tragedy underscored the fragility of life and exposed the brutal fallout of unchecked violence. While the investigation charged forward, friends and strangers alike came together in grief, demanding that no stone be left unturned. And beneath the shock lies a question that still echoes: can the community learn from this heartbreak and prevent future bloodshed? Or is this destined to fade into another bleak headline? In the end, Ronnie Smith's story should be remembered for more than controversy. He was a man with real ambitions, a father with genuine love for his children, one who found himself entangled in a web of growing tension. His daughter's name will forever symbolize innocence lost, forcing all who remain to reflect on how a moment of sudden violence can devastate entire families and cities. Whether that reflection sparks change or fades into silence will depend on what Fort Worth does next.